Irrelevant. Hello, how are you? Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in this fine world of ours. Glad you're here. Hello, Double Stuff. Glad you're here. Hello, Zero. Nice to see you. Hello, Tyreek. Glad you're here. Glad you could all be here. At least if you are in the U.S., you are here on Thanksgiving Eve. If you are elsewhere in the world, happy Wednesday or happy Thursday, as the case may be. Been bringing past couple weeks back today. I'm having trouble understanding that, Tyreek. Been binging, not bringing. Okay, that was my fault. Been binging the past couple weeks. Back to day one today. What's causing the binging? What's causing the binging? And what's causing the giving into the binging? It sounds like there's something definitely triggering you, or something did trigger you. But it sounds like you're also not using any tools that we talk about in here to be able to ward off the triggers, to be able to ward off the urges. So curious a little bit what's happening there, Tyreek. What's been going on in your life, and why haven't you been able to stab this thing in the heart, get rid of this damn thing? Like you said, you've been binging. There's got to be a reason behind it. We have to, so much of addiction health, so much of helping people recover is detective work. You've got to be able to understand why you do what you do. One of the biggest pieces of the detective work is making sure that you're not a biased witness. You have to learn to be 100% truthful with yourself. And it's easy to lie to yourself. It's easy to justify. It's easy to minimize your role in all of this. We as addicts know how to lie to ourselves. We as addicts know how to manipulate ourselves. We as addicts tell ourselves the narrative that we need to hear. So the question is, can you be honest with yourself about why you've been binging? Can you be honest with yourself about why you have not been able to get the pornography use under control? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in this fine world of ours. My name is Josh. I haven't introduced myself yet. Forgive me. I am a pornography addiction coach. I am also a therapeutic disclosure specialist and a betrayal trauma coach. I myself was a porn addict for 24 years. And an alcoholic for 22 years. I have been clean and sober for 10 and a half years now. So I'm here to talk about this stuff with you, answer any questions you may have. Not sure how busy it's going to be tonight, being that it's the night before a holiday here in the U.S. So, we might have a chance to talk about some other stuff too. Mr. Smoothie Buns. Good evening. Glad you're here. Golden State says, I've been sober for 6 weeks now. Well, tell me, what is it that, thank you for subscribing, Mr. Smoothie Buns. I appreciate that. Now you can put like pictures of my dogs and stuff into your comments. But yeah, Golden State, what is working? What is working for you? 6 weeks, I think that you've got 6 weeks behind you. Oh, there's my little cutie. That's one of my kittens I had to give back yesterday. The fostering is over. But yeah, Golden State, why are you being successful? I've been doing multiplication questions. Seriously? I have heard it works. I have heard it is one of those things that just works. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Because, there are so many things that I read that I didn't know when I was going through recovery, like the multiplication thing. And so now I can't use it because I'm healthy. I'm healthy, so I don't know if it works or not. It's like people who ask about using filters on the phone. 10 and a half years ago when I was going through early sobriety, that wasn't a thing. So I don't know how much it works. So I'm glad to hear that. Cooking, that's awesome as well. I actually still do cooking when I get into any, low or depressed parts of the year, maybe like winter. It makes me feel good to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours in the kitchen and, make something that does taste great. Double Stuff Oreo asks, what happens within the first month clean? Well, it's a little bit different for everybody, and we have not seen amazing studies on this stuff yet. Most of what we know about the withdrawal or the detox from porn comes from either anecdotal evidence from people like myself who have been through it, or by looking at other addictions. You can expect to have some physical and mental body changes. And this can range from fatigue to mania. As your chemicals are starting to change, as your body starts to change, you're probably going to feel like you're living two lives. One is your mind that is programmed to go after this stuff, and the other is, the real you deep down trying to fight it. You may experience, issues with an erection if you're a guy. You may find yourself irritable. You may find yourself feeling hopeless. You may find yourself feeling like you're on top of the world. It's so different with everybody right now, and we don't know what causes the different reactions within people. Thank you for all those likes, Golden State. If the rest of you wouldn't mind tapping up likes, and I have seen some of you do that, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. This helps get people into the room. This helps spread the word. If you're not following me, please do. And if I say anything worthwhile, please share it with the world. Bryce Cole. I literally quit 3 months and I've been relapsing a lot. I haven't done it in 3 days. What's causing the relapse, Bryce? And how are you not recognizing it when it's happening? Once you're at the point that you are fully relapsing, nobody's stopping you because you're basically intoxicated. It's like getting drunk. You're not really drunk on that first beer or two. Then as you drink more, you feel a little bit more inebriated. Your decision making isn't great. And then when you eventually get drunk, you can't really, make good decisions at all. It's the same thing with the chemicals that you are trying to get when you're using porn, is that you reach a point where you're so inebriated, you're not going to stop. But you don't get to the point that you're sitting in front of a phone, looking at pornography, pants around your ankles, handling your business. You don't get to that magically. That's a series of decisions. So what you've got to do is go back, Bryce, and look, when did I have control over these decisions? Did you wake up that morning and just knew that was the day that you were going to give in? Did you start hearing, voices during the day? Oh, you got to try this. You got to try this. How will you know that you're healthy if you don't? How will you know that, don't you want to know if it still does what it used to do to you? That's a very common thing. And you could have been triggered by some kind of news. Somebody died. You got fired. Some kind of bad news will trigger a lot of people. You've got to recognize at the very beginning of those triggers when you can choose something else, when you can go somewhere else. You were great for 3 months, and then one day you weren't. Something was different about that day. You need to figure out what it was. Okay, I'm falling way behind here. I apologize very much. I am going to go through and I'm going to hit all your comments, I promise. And I thank you all so much for tapping up those likes. Very, very appreciated. Korean-eyed Mexican. I used to be so bad with porn, I would watch it on 3 monitors because I couldn't decide what to watch. I've actually heard people talk about that they will have their phone and their laptop or their phone and a tablet going at the same time. Will have their phone and their laptop or their phone and a tablet going at the same time. And that's the place. I actually mentioned this to one of my clients today, and towards the end of my use, one of the things that I did, I learned several words in different languages. I learned breast, vagina, sex, nude beach, naked, and a few other. I learned these in French, Spanish, Dutch, German. I basically knew what those words looked like in the Russian alphabet. Because if you know a lot of those words, a lot of websites that, claim they don't have that stuff, if you search using other terms that aren't in English, you can find it. That's, you know, that's how bad I got. I was learning foreign languages to be able to use porn. So, that doesn't surprise me whatsoever. That does not surprise me whatsoever. Thank you, all of you, for liking up the live as much as you have. This is a very high number this early on. So, want to thank you very, very much. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody's comments. If I did miss a comment of yours, I apologize. He knows what he's talking about. He's smart. Thank you, Golden State. I appreciate that. You're a good guy. Or girl, but I assume guy. Smoothie Bun, since we last spoke, it's like the urge is turned up 10 times, or turned up times 10. It's tough. That's interesting. That's very interesting. What has changed in your mind? What has evolved in your mind? We had a very good, conversation, and I'm curious. I'm sure you dwelled on the conversation. I'm sure you processed the conversation. Why do you think it's turned up 10 times? I'm curious what you think. Okay, still trying not to miss anybody. I'm tired and drained ASF from binging. Yeah, as F. Okay, that's probably as fuck, right? Yeah. I'm sure you are. It's not an easy thing to do. You shouldn't be doing it, yet you really want to do it, yet you really don't want to do it, yet your body is screaming for it, yet you're tired now because you've been doing it so much. I'm sure you're torn in many directions. I'm sure you're torn in many directions, Tyreek. It sounds draining. I remember back in the day, I would be more anxious or more like just like get the hell out of the house. To my wife says she's going shopping for a couple hours. I know I can use at that point, and then she maybe I'll do some vacuuming first, or maybe I'll call a friend, or and I'm just chomping at the bit there, like come on. That was exhausting waiting. So. Tyreek said, I wrote down why I've been binging in my journal. Excellent. I'm glad that you have. And now I think you should be writing, now that you've written down why, you should be writing down how you're going to change things. Because that's understanding the problem is awesome. Doing something about it is even better. Hey, Gabito, glad you're here. Hope everything's going well on the force. Thanksgiving break, yeah, it's pretty much where everybody is. I think that's why we have a lot less people, both in the daytime lives and the nighttime. I think that I do have a substantial amount of younger people watching, including in college, and I think this is just out of the regular routine. I know on Thanksgiving Eve, which is what we are tonight here in the U.S., I would go out drinking with friends from high school, probably well into my mid-20s. That was the only time a lot of us from high school ever saw each other, was the night before Thanksgiving. So a lot of people aren't out there, but that's okay. I'm glad you've got a break, Gabito, that you can spend it with your family. Smoothie Bun says, I'll have to do the exercises you gave me. Yes, please do. I give you exercises in sessions, so you will do them. And see if they work, because for some people they change their lives. For some people they don't do a damn thing. It's very hit or miss here. So you've got to give it a try. Hey, Ash Tinks is here. Nice to see you. Thank you for the likes. Appreciate that very much. And happy Thanksgiving to you, my friend, and to you, Smoothie Buns. Golden State, you're a guy. I'm so sad for you. Me too. Doesn't it suck sometimes? Um, Anyway, I haven't introduced myself in a long time. I think it's mostly people who are regulars here, but I never want someone to be like, who the hell is this guy? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm glad you are here. My name is Josh. I was a porn addict for 24 years. I was a alcoholic for 22 years. I have been clean and sober now for 10 and a half years. About 8 years ago, I got into this space, first as an author. I've written 4 books about pornography, addiction, and betrayal trauma. Did a lot of public speaking, gave a lot of interviews. During the pandemic, however, I switched gears and I got certified as a pornography addiction coach, as a betrayal trauma coach, and as a therapeutic disclosure specialist. I work with the, short way of saying, or long way of saying, I work with the addict, I work with the spouse, and I work with the couple as a whole. Hey, Angel, how you doing? Glad you're here. Where are we here? Have I missed anything? Opinion on Quandale Dingley. I don't know if that's, I won't ban you because I don't even know if that's a porn name, but yeah. You know that we don't want to be doing glorifying pornography in here. You know we don't want to trigger people in here. So please, even if you love pornography, or even if you want to tell stories of back when you were a user, this is not really an appropriate place. This is a safe place for people to come. That's a meme. Yeah, you gotta tell you, the meme culture is gonna fall flat on this old guy. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I learned about some knee operation meme the other day for the first time because my mother got a legit knee operation the other day, and my daughter was making some knee operation meme joke that, guess who didn't understand it? This dude. But anyway, I am here. If you have any questions or comments or opinions that you want to talk about regarding pornography addiction, addiction in general, betrayal trauma in general, your relationships, any issues that you may be having with them. Like I said, I am certified for all this stuff. If you think you would benefit from a one-on-one session with me, that would be great. I actually have time open tomorrow evening. I am, because I help people all around the world. I help people in a lot of countries where it is not Thanksgiving tomorrow, and I still want to be available to them. So if anybody is looking for a session tomorrow night, I will be available on Thanksgiving because, as we know, Thanksgiving evening is one of those times that a lot of people use. We were talking about that just the other day in here. During the day, porn use statistically drops. At night, it goes up. So I want to be available to people if possible. If I don't end up having any sessions, maybe I'll come on here and do a live. Not sure. But anyway, if you want some one-on-one help, if you are looking into a private session, whether you're a first-timer or you've been with me for a long time, you know that you can schedule by going up to that Calendly link that's in my bio on the front page of my profile and learn all about it there. Look at all the different people coming in. I love it when I see names that I'm not familiar with in here. So I hope that those people who are popping in will stay for a few minutes and listen to the stuff we're talking about, participate in the conversation. This works the best when people have things to say. You've been here before. If you're a regular, you've been here before. You know the conversations are best when they are conversations and not just me talking again and again and again. Do want to, again, lean into the Thanksgiving or even lean into the whole holiday thing. If you're Jewish, Hanukkah's coming up. If you're a Gentile, Christmas is coming up. If you just like to have fun, Kwanzaa's coming up. It's the holiday season, and while that is a happy time for most people, it's not a happy time for everybody. So, number one, keep that in mind when you're dealing with people. Someone next to you at school, someone next to you at work, the holidays may be the toughest time of the year for them. And understand that it's a very easy time to get triggered. If you're 35 years old, but your parents and some of their decision making when it came to parenting you left you with, some real trauma, you're going back maybe to your childhood home. You're going back to a situation, dinner time, where you are absolutely playing the son or the daughter. You're playing the child. It's very easy to get triggered. It's very easy for old trauma, old feelings to rise to the surface when you are at family gatherings for the holiday. And and it probably doesn't help that there's that uncle who drinks too much, or, there's some people there who you wouldn't pick them to walk your dog, much less you want them to be part of your family. So try to take a deep breath. Understand it's a day. You don't have to be around anybody you don't want to be around. You don't have to entertain anybody you don't want to be around. You need to think of yourself, especially in some of these days that are very triggering. And if it's triggering for you. If it's triggering for you. Again, thank you so much for these likes. This is going to be a kind of record for me this soon in. Tyreek says, I want to be clean for Christmas. Well, you can be, my friend. You can be. I'm sometimes I write down ideas for videos, and one that I was thinking about, for early December was talking about people making New Year's resolutions soon. It's like, you don't need to wait to make a resolution. We're coming to the end of No Nut November. I hope people keep going. If you want to be clean for Christmas, that's great, but don't start on the 23rd of December. I know plenty of addicts who would use that kind of math in their head. Well, if I don't use the 23rd, the 24th, I'll be too busy on the 25th. I will have a streak going for Christmas. It's like, great. Why don't you try starting that streak today? I'm not saying that's what you're doing or not doing, Tyreek, but I do want to drive the point home to people. There is no point in waiting. There's really no point in waiting. Start today. Real McLovin has been good for 27 days. I assume this is a No Nut November thing, McLovin. Are you going to be using come December 1st, or did you use No Nut November as the jumping off point? This is really the time of the year where it's important to tell people who did No Nut November, who are successful with No Nut November, you can keep going through December. It's okay. You can keep going through December. It's perfectly all right. Yeah, a lot of addicts do that. No, I mean, absolutely, Tyreek. One of the things that I can tell pisses off some of my clients first time out, or I can tell pisses off the addict in the relationship when I'm talking with a couple, is that I don't fall for a lot of the tricks that a regular therapist, a regular counselor might fall for, because I myself was an addict. I know what addicts think. I know how addicts maneuver. And I know that addicts are liars. That's the bottom line. Addicts are liars. You can't believe them. You want to, but you can't. So, yeah, once I build a rapport with someone and they feel safe telling me the truth, it's a lot better. And we do gain that truth and that trust. But yeah, a lot of addicts just flat out lie. And you're starting now. Good, Tyreek. I'm glad. That's awesome. I'm very, very glad of that. Real McLovin answers, well, was the jumping off point, but how can I keep going after? How have you been doing it to this point? What makes each day possible? What are you doing instead? I mean, because really, What is the difference between November 31st and December 1st? What's the difference between November 12th and December 12th? A little bit colder, a little bit more Christmas music on the radio. It's not really, every day is a single entity for you to battle. And you've battled 27 of them in a row. Why would you just magically not be able to go past 31? What I would suggest you do very soon is to look back over these 27 days. What worked? What surprises you? What surprised you? Did you learn about your use? What triggers you? Where you get your urges? Did you learn how to distract yourself from that? Did you learn how to find other things to do that occupied your mind? What was successful for you this November? You know, you don't need a clever motto or a clever marketing thing like No Nut November. You know, don't do it December. No more in 2004. We can come up with clever, taglines all day. What's worked to this point, McLovin? What's worked to this point? Just catching up, guy. Thank you for all the likes. It's a hell of a lot. Making sure I'm not missing any comments. If I do, please rewrite the comment. Sometimes TikTok tells me all the likes. Sometimes TikTok doesn't and just does the comments. I'm getting all the likes tonight, so I have to kind of search through to look for the comments. And hoping I didn't miss any. If I've missed any from anybody, I'm sorry. It was my scrolling. Please rewrite your comment. Or the other possibility is that you put a word in your comment that is not one that we, not one that we allow in here. And some of them are sexual and some of them are just stuff like Trump and Biden and other words we don't need to talk about in here because it's not a political room. Anyway, you guys are quiet tonight. You guys are kind of quiet tonight. I was hoping for a little more conversation, but that's quite okay. This is with less people than usual. This is a great opportunity if you want to get in depth on anything. If you have had a question you haven't wanted to ask in a while, or you have been holding back, would love to address some of these things tonight. It's like I said, pretty empty room. It's an okay time to do it. Real McLovin says, honestly, it's changed my mindset a lot, but I think doing it once or twice a week would be fine. Well, you know what? You can try that and then see if it turns into 3 times a week. See if it turns into 4 times a week. The thing I would say is go do it. I mean, do whatever you want to do. You're going to anyway. But around December 10th, December 15th, take the do you have the symptoms of porn addiction quiz that I have on my front page pinned to the top. And just make sure that you are doing it okay. I don't know you. I don't know your history. Doing it once or twice a week may be fine for you. Although I am going to point out, if you do it twice a week steadily, that's over 100 times during the year. That's quite a bit when you think about it. How much time do you take each time? Multiply that by 104, and that's how many minutes or hours or whatever it is that you're doing it. So just keep it, front of mind that you don't want it to get out of control. Hey, Joseph, thank you for hitting up all the likes. Appreciate that. I'm just low on energy. I understand that, Tyreek. It's been a long freaking week. Do you have Thanksgiving plans? I am going to my mommy and my daddy's house, and my brother will be there with his wife and his 2 little kids, which is nice because we're we're kind of in between generations in the family right now, and to have a couple kids is nice to have around, because God forbid the next generation of kids coming into the family are going to be my grandkids, and I'm not ready for that yet. I have asked my daughter kindly not to have a baby before I'm 50 years old, so I can at least, my first goal was to get her past being a teen mom, and now my goal is a little more selfish. It's I don't want to be a grandfather in his 40s. And my wife just laughs at me because she's already over 50 years old. But yeah, so just close family, just close family. Ilyas, how do you stop urges? Well, first, one of the good things to do is to keep track of your urges. Where do they happen? When do they happen? Why do they happen? There are patterns there, so it helps if you know you may be going into a situation where urges are created. That said, when you have an urge happening, the first thing you should do is not be alone. If you are with somebody, odds are you're not going to look at porn. If you are with somebody, odds are you are not going to be touching yourself. If you are doing either of those things with a group of people around, it's not just porn addiction that you have to worry about. That's some off decision making. So go be around somebody. That's the biggest thing I can say. Go be around somebody. And if you can't, be apart from your device. It's simple math. If you cannot access pornography, you cannot view pornography. So if you use every night before you go to bed, well, then put it in a drawer in the kitchen, or put your phone in the drawer in the kitchen if you're going to be tempted to use at night. Yes, you can still go up and go to the kitchen and get it, but that's going to be several seconds getting up and going there. Maybe you'll have a change of heart. Maybe you'll have a moment of clarity of, I don't want to do this. I'm trying to stop this. The other thing you can do is to have activities prepared. Do you like to do crossword puzzles? Do you like to do Sudoku? Do you like to do Wordle? Whatever it is. Paint, read, watch TV. Write your mom a letter. Call your mom. Whatever it is. Have other things planned. So when you get an urge, instead of going, I got to go in that direction, you can go in another direction quickly because you've got it planned. I'm feeling an urge. Okay, I'm by myself. Okay, I need to go put my phone someplace else, and I need to sit down with this word search book that I bought at the magazine section of the grocery store, CVS. Look on the lowest shelf. Next time you're at the grocery store, look on the lowest shelves of the ever-shrinking newsstand. You're going to see activity books, mazes, crossword puzzles, word searches, jumbles, all this. Get yourself a book or two of those. So when you get an urge, you can sit down with a pen and just do that. No device needed whatsoever. And if you're focusing on that kind of work, you're not going to be focusing on the urge. That's a great thing that you can do. But, number one is don't be alone. Be around people. Get out of the situation, whatever you can do. Hope that helps. Hope that helps you, Illy. Hope that helps everybody, really. Hope that helps everybody. Let me have a sip of my beverage. Good stuff. So, hope everybody else who is American here has good plans for Thanksgiving. I'm guessing if you're not American, you're already starting to look towards Christmas. If you are struggling with this stuff, consider making it a Christmas gift for yourself that you're going to stop this. Consider it a Christmas, if you are a betrayed spouse or betrayed wife, girlfriend, husband, boyfriend, Get yourself the gift of healing. Take care of yourself this time of year. You know what you need. You're not going to ask anybody else for coaching. You're not going to ask anybody for, mental health needs. Don't leave yourself off of your Christmas list or your Hanukkah list or holiday list or whatever I'm supposed to call it these days. Treat yourself, and it's amazing. I know times are tight, but think about how much it will pay off in the long run. Think about how much it pays off in the long run. I used to be a manager at a call center briefly when I was between writing gigs. Jesus, 20 years ago now. And we sold these programs for parents who had defiant children. And one of the things that I recognized was that what we were selling wasn't better behaved children. It was a lack of fear of the future of having unwieldy, defiant children. What is porn addiction going to do to you as you move forward, as you get older? Illy, did you just change your picture? Did it go that fast? I don't want you to leave yourself off your Christmas list. And you can get something frivolous or you can invest in yourself. What is good for you for the long term? And Illy, thank you for following me. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, I like it. I always prefer photos over just somebody having a standard letter or one of those goofy characters they have. So yes, thumbs up, Illy. And thank you for continuing to like the lives, everybody. Appreciate that. Double Stuff Oreo asks, do you think as AI progresses, addictions will only get worse? Until there's a real need for AI, I would say no. Why do we need AI in porn right now? Aren't our porn needs being met? What was not being met in the past? Well, when I was becoming an addict at 12 years old, it was hard to get pornography. Well, that's not the case anymore. When I was 12, 13, 14, first 10 years of my addiction or so, the pornography was not nearly as graphic, I would say, or it was not as easy to find pornography that was as graphic as is easily acceptable these days. And that is, it's demand, but it's about price. It's about access. It's, pornography through and this is going to be a little bit of a history lesson about pornography. Pornography, as it started to rise up in the theaters in the late 50s, early 60s, all the way up through the late 80s, early 90s, where you see pretty much the end of the XXX theater, it was catered to straight white men. Most of pornography was catered to straight white men because the audience was there. It was known the audience was there. Did the audience want to see other nationalities? Maybe, but could you guarantee you'd make money? Did the audience want to see homosexual relations? Maybe, but would the money be there? Because you got to think, you had to put your movie on real film, not videotape, not digital video. You had to have real film. You had to get that film developed. You had to, and this doesn't even talk about making the movie with actors and sets and all that. And then you had to make copies of this film, which was not cheap, send them out all over the country or all over the world, which is not cheap. And then you only got a small cut because Some went to the movie theater. Some went to the distributor. Some went here. So they only went after straight white men because they could guarantee that audience. I don't know if this is still true because I haven't looked up this stat recently, but prior to the pandemic, when I was giving speeches and I was giving public presentations, one of the things that I pointed out was when you look at the fastest growing segments, percentage wise, of pornography addiction, yes, it is still your straight white male who composes the biggest piece of that pie, but the black communities, female communities, religious communities, specifically Catholic and Mormon, these communities were going right off the chart with pornography and pornography addiction. Why? Because of ease of access. These people, and most of these people did not want to go to a public place to get their porn. Or you can now create porn that doesn't need the audience it once had. You can create pornography, with literally two people in a camera these days, and you can have it up making money by the end of the day. So it's not made the same way it used to be. It doesn't need as big of an audience as it used to need. It doesn't take, people aren't making multi-million dollars off their porn films like they once did, but you don't need to because the overhead is so small. So to get back to your question, do I think as AI progresses, addictions will only get worse? No, because I don't see what AI is going to bring to the table that is going to be that radically different. I think VR and VR helmets could be an issue, but again, they're not cheap. They're not available everywhere. There's not a ton of content for them. If VR helmets fell to, 1995 and they were amazing, I would be much more worried about it in the pornography realm. But I remember going back in the early 1990s, HBO had this cheesy show called Real Sex, which was like a magazine format where they'd have 3 or 4 stories, about 10 minutes each, and it had something to do with the sexual culture. And they, back then in 1990, they were promising us virtual reality sex. They were promising us sex robots and all kinds of stuff that is not even close. All kinds of stuff that's not even close. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about it, to be honest. I think it's sickening that you can make pornography of people just with a headshot. I think that's kind of exploitative. I think exploitive. I think that's kind of nuts. I think that's pretty immoral, honestly. I hope that more laws are passed about it. But I don't see, aside from the movie makers themselves maybe being able to do things with certain genres and certain effects that they can't, maybe it could appeal to the anime crowd. I don't know. But I'm not too worried about it, really, Double Stuff Oreo. But that's a really good question. I appreciate that. Great question. And if anybody disagrees with me, I'd love to hear about it. Yap Austin says 1.5 weeks strong. Congratulations. 10, 11 days isn't anything minor. 10, 11 days is not minor. It's pretty damn major. I know there were people who are here right now who are like, oh, if only I could get to 10 days. Whatever you're doing right, Yap Austin. But keep in mind, you've read enough people here over time, or even just today, talking about, I went 3 weeks and failed. I went 2 months and failed. Recognize there are going to still be urges. There are still going to be triggers. There are going to be days where you feel like you need it. Be prepared for those. Be prepared. know what you're going to do when that happens, because it will. But good luck to you, man, and I hope that you come back and let us know how you're doing periodically. Would love to follow your journey. Hey, Jenna baby, glad you're here. How do parents protect their kids in a positive point? Well, if you're starting with 1-year-olds, or if you can start from the beginning, I think that you can introduce it age appropriately. You can, at the age of 4, or 5, you can say, hey, I just need you to know that nobody is ever allowed to take pictures of you without your clothes on. And you are not allowed to ever take pictures of anybody without their clothes on, okay? That's probably enough for age 4. And then when they're in kindergarten or first grade, you can introduce a little bit more, even without saying the P word. You can say, you may be at school and you may have a friend who has a phone or a tablet, and they may show you pictures of people without their clothes on. And it might look like people are, without their clothes on or wrestling. Kids aren't supposed to see those. You know how kids aren't supposed to have beer? Kids aren't supposed to see those kinds of pictures. So if one of your friends or somebody at school is showing those kinds of pictures, let a teacher know, or let me know when you come home, because I want to make sure you're safe. And then I think you can introduce it more and more. Well, okay, you've seen more than one kid, 9 or 10, you've seen more than one kid going around with this stuff. Or showing you this stuff. This stuff is called pornography. This is something like beer or cigarettes that many adults like to use, but it's not good for kids to use it. When you're 18 years old, you can decide that you want to use this stuff, but we don't use this in this house because it's not good for anybody. It's not good for anybody. But you'll be able to make your own decisions later, and you'll be able to make your own decisions when you have kids. But we don't do this in this house. And then if I would go a step further with a boy who was 11 or 12, and I would actually tell them about porn-induced erectile dysfunction. That if they watch too much of this stuff, literally their penis can break. It can stop working. And that's not to scare them. Well, it's to scare them, but it's to scare them with facts. So that's what I would do, Jenna, if I could start from the very beginning and move forward. Now, if you're asking, okay, my kids are 12, what do I do to protect them? I think you find out how much they know or have seen first. And the thing that you have to do is create an environment where it's open and safe to talk about it and not embarrassing. I have to give my wife all of the credit in the world for raising my kids to be quite open and have great communication with her, me to a lesser extent, especially with our daughter, but that makes sense, about being open about sex. So, sex isn't a dirty thing. Sex isn't a gross thing. Sex isn't a bad thing. Sex is good when it's healthy. It's dangerous when it's not. And just keep in mind, Jenna, that this is not the birds and the bees speech. So many parents avoid this speech because he's not ready to find out how babies are made. Yeah, well, you know what? Odds are he could look at 5 minutes of pornography and still have no idea how babies are made. That's a different speech. This is similar to the I don't want you to smoke cigarettes, I don't want you to drink alcohol, I am looking out for you, and just be honest, just try to be as honest as you can. Mr. Smoothie Buns asks, isn't that VIP tag nice? Just like angels. How could I break down a trigger, like what to look for in feelings? Well, that's part of what I do with the trauma. Wow, losing my mind. That's what I do with the trauma work, because usually triggers come out of trauma. Usually they're buried way back in it, or a trigger happens because it's right next door to the trauma. That's a lot. That's one of the reasons why I tell people, write down the time, write down the date, write down what's happening. I'm driving home from work and the boss was an asshole today and there's a lot of traffic. Okay, well, if you notice every time your boss is an asshole and you're stuck in traffic, that's where your mind goes. Who knows why? But let's sit and talk about that. You don't like waiting. You don't like being talked down to. You remember times when your teacher would talk down to you and then make you sit out in the hallway and you just had to watch people walk by. It's kind of like being, kind of sounds like being talked to wrong by the boss and sitting out in traffic. Maybe that's a connection, maybe it's not. But we will talk about this stuff. That's what you have to do. You have to be, it's very hard for, you can say, when somebody flat out says to me, oh, I know I'm triggered. I know I have urges. It's like, okay, well, let's talk, because a lot of times people don't realize it. A lot of times people have part of the story, but not all of the story. A lot of times people, it's easier to tell yourself why than to do. If you really knew why, do you think it would still be a trigger? So it's the kind of work you can't really do by yourself, unfortunately. What's an extreme case of porn addiction? Well, I mean, a lot of it depends on the person, Illy. I have worked with people personally. I have been in recovery groups with people who would spend 6 to 8 hours a day, many days of the week using. I have also had clients and been in recovery with people who would actually have between 5 and 10 orgasms a day based on masturbating to pornography. So I guess if you're looking for numbers, that's probably the extreme. I mean, I have had people tell me about crazy things that they've seen or crazy role playing or chat rooms that they've been in. That the content is more extreme in that way, but the case of addiction, yeah, it's almost a full-time job, put it that way. Tyreek, yeah, I realized SA trauma has contributed to this addiction, and I'm sorry about that, my friend. Mine has too. Mine did too. If you ever want to talk about that, we can, privately, one-on-one, and it is something that you do have to go through, and I'll tell you, I remembered, I think it was from the babysitter who I had, I remembered something like 8 sexual abuse issues and like 6 hardcore neglect issues. And my therapist at the time was like, you can stop digging. You know what happened there. You know what happened at that house. So there might even be more of what happened to me in the story, but I knew what it was, and I had to get through it. I had to deal with it and get through it. And I'm sorry that happened to you, Tyreek. I know the imprint that it can cause on somebody. I am privileged and lucky to be here talking to all of you. I am privileged and lucky to have the clients that I have who trust me. We build those one-on-one bonds over time. I feel like one of the luckiest guys in the world with what I do. But I never could have guessed I'd end up here. I never could have guessed I'd end up here. I thought I'd be writing for a national magazine or writing movies. But, pretty much in my late teens, I started dealing with some of the fallout of the trauma and the repression and the repressed feelings. That's when the drinking got crazy out of hand. That's when some of my sexual behaviors got crazy out of hand. Because I was just pushing the trauma down and entering adulthood without having the problem-solving skills of being an adult, without having the, anger management, anxiety management, stress management skills of an adult. And I think because I spent so long having my emotional growth stunted through pornography and alcohol, that I wasn't going to get too far in life. I'm still living 2 miles away from my parents. I worked in the media for quite a while and I had a great time, but I didn't end up at a national or international publication. And I can trace a lot of this to fear, and fear that was instilled in me way back then. I dealt with that fear through addiction. And I'm sure that there are times where you have to deal with that SA trauma through the addiction. But that doesn't have to be the case, Tyreek. That doesn't have to be the case, Tyreek. Jenna Baby goes, we were talking about how to raise kids, starting early, 5 in 1 year. So now is it time. I hope that you are calling all of their body parts the correct things. I hope that, there's no shame in their body parts, or you do need to teach them boundaries. Hey, we don't go out into public without our clothes on. But, right now, I think it's great that you're asking this, because having been through childhood myself, having been a parent myself, and having read a lot about this area of pornography education, you're doing the right stuff here. You're finding out this stuff. Keep it open and honest. I mean, that's the best thing I can tell you, is to keep it open and honest and make it not scary. They don't need to know the word pornography till they're 10. Just tell them a few behaviors that need to be done, and like I said, it can be the smoking talk. You can have it off of, if you see a beer laying around, don't touch it. If you see somebody's laptop computer open to that, don't go touch it. Don't go look at it. It's not good for kids. It won't kill you, but it's not good for kids. And that's that. Most kids will be perfectly cool with that. You are welcome, Tyreek. Your mom. How are you doing? I'm glad you're here. Had to break up with my ex today because he has corn addiction. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry that there wasn't a better resolution for you. What was the final straw for you, if I can ask your mom? I think that that's something that those people in here who are struggling with the addiction, whether they have a partner or not, it's always good to get the perspective of the betrayed partner. I'm going to guess you didn't find out he had corn addiction today and break up with him today. If you did, totally within your right. And that's something that I have heard happening in the past. I'm just curious about how long did you give this? How long did you put up with this? Because that's one of the things that I find when I deal with partners, especially, older partners, people who have been together, been married 10 years, or been together 15, 20 years, is that they really get surprised. And I guess I was even in this situation since I was about 10 years. And they get surprised when they get caught and anybody cares, and they can't just get used to their life. They just can't get used to their life. It work. I think you might have written something, your mom, and it didn't come through because the only thing that came through was it work. So you might have said something that gets flagged, unfortunately. Gets flagged, yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's something where a lot of my partners, they try for a very long time. And then at some point, you either have to decide, I am going to trust this person again, and that's fine. Or you can decide, I'm not going to deal with this person, or I'm going to wait and see what he does. And your mom says, I've been with him for 2 years, and my final straw was him not trying to help himself. And that's it for so many. That's it for so many. It's, are you sorry you got, are you sorry that you're a porn addict, or you're sorry you got caught? Do you think that you have a problem? Is this just something all guys do? Is this not a big deal? Well, what about if it hurts my feelings as your partner? Shouldn't that count for something? And there are so many modalities. Obviously, I push coaching here. I push my coaching here. I'm a businessman as much as I'm a helper. Wasn't even judging him since I used to be addicted. No, and judging, and judging isn't going to help at all. But you can't, much like I said earlier, that addicts are liars. I can't just stand there and let an addict lie to me. And I'm sure, if you're now in recovery, it's tough to just stand there and watch somebody not want the recovery like you did. That's honestly, and personally, that's one of the most frustrating parts about my work. I probably have, in the last month, I've probably had 20 to 25 repeat clients, and I've probably had 10 to 15 first-time clients, which is about an average month. It's a decent month. It's not, July is really slow, January is really busy, but it's an average month. And one of the things that gets me, and I never know if I'm going to see a first-timer again, is when you've got to want this. You've got to want this. It's not quick. You can't do, you can use your wife or your kids or your health as motivation, but you're going to have to do this yourself. You're going to have to do this yourself. And there are so many ways to do this, like I was saying. I push the coaching because I'm a coach. But you can go to therapy. You can go to counseling. You can see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. You can go to a 12-step group or some other organization. Doesn't have to be 12 steps. It could be Smart Recovery. There are other types of group therapy out there. You call your local hospital. You'll find a support group for everything. You can go to rehab. You can go and learn about this through books, through the internet. Watch videos and movies about addiction. You can do so many different things. There are so many ways to learn. There are so many ways to begin the recovery journey, but ultimately, they have to want it. They have to want it. And I'm sorry that's where it ended up, your mom, but I'm sure that you will be much healthier and happier for it. Deep State says, why not just go to AA? Because AA doesn't work. Well, number one, AA is for alcoholics. Number two, the 12-step system doesn't work for everybody. It works for some, but it doesn't work for everybody. I did AA for about 9 months. I did Sex Addicts Anonymous for 6 months. I think that they are worthwhile programs, but they do not really mesh with my personality type very well. So if I was only forced to go there, I can't say I would have 10 and a half years of sobriety. I know personally that it was my therapists. It was my coaches. It was those professionals I have sat and talked to over the years that have done the most work. That and research, and reading, because I had to I wrote 4 books about this stuff. And I'm a geek when it comes to, learning about something. So that it was reading and it was talking to professionals that did it for me. But if I hadn't been doing anything like that, my wife would have left me. She didn't tell me how to recover. She didn't judge me, just like you're saying. But she did want to see that I was moving forward and actually conquering this. Over 10,000 likes. Thank you, everybody. That's nice. I appreciate that. So yeah, Deep State. It's one of those things. AA works for some people. 12 steps work for some people. They don't work for others. I urge everybody to try everything. See what works for you. I have never seen 2 people recover the exact same way, whether this was when I was in recovery or whether this has been the last 4.5 years that I've been working as a coach. No two people recover the same way. Your mom says, I was trying to get him through therapy, but the content lying about doing stuff. And if they're not going to tell the truth to their therapist, if they're not going to tell their truth to their psychologist, to their coach, to the group at AA, there's not much you can do. You can't force anybody to tell the truth. You can't force anybody to face their problems, face their trauma. You can't force anybody. They have to actually want it. And then it's still a challenge, but wanting it is first. Mr. Smoothie Buns asked, what would a psychologist do that you can't or not do? Prescribe meds. You know, that's the biggest one, is prescribe meds. A psychologist can also give you a scientific diagnosis. I try not, I tell people, addiction is a label. It's a label that's applied when you meet the criteria of a certain amount of symptoms. But it's just a label. So I cannot put diagnoses on stuff that will be viewed as enough for like an insurance agency because I'm a coach. So that's pretty much it. And most people who come see me tell me that they've been to psychologists or therapists and they just didn't mesh with them. What they need is not necessarily a medicinal solution, even though I think meds can play a big role, and I've been taking them for my bipolar disorder for 25 years, and I know the role they play. But some people don't need that. And some people don't need, a therapist who is very book learned but doesn't have any experience. A lot of times people say they like working with me because I've been there. The other nice thing when you talk about psychologist to therapist is, if I'm in a session with you and I can be completely honest with you. I can be completely honest with you with what I'm thinking, and they always can't. They have certain protocols they have to follow. I don't have to, which a lot of times that's why they will dismiss coaches, but I've talked with a lot of therapists. I've talked with a lot of therapists who have become coaches, and they much prefer the freedom of coaching. Don't need medicine. I'm cool with that. Good. Hey, Diego, is looking at corn just as bad as finishing to it? Yeah, if it's causing the brain chemicals to be activated, yes. Largely, it's the same thing. It's pretty much the same thing. It's like having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They go together. Psychologists and therapists defend corn too much. Well, why? Do you think that maybe they use it? Maybe they don't want to believe it's bad. Maybe there is something in it for them to not say it's bad. I also understand why many of them, because it's not in the DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual that is used by the American Psychological Association as the kind of how-to Bible. Now, there are a lot of therapists who think this book, even though that they had to go through it and study it, is largely an outdated piece of crap. But there are some psychologists that just dry hump the hell out of that thing and will not make an opinion or decision without consulting it. Right now, pornography addiction is not considered an addiction by the American Psychological Association, which is fine. You know what the only addiction that is outside of, drugs and that stuff is? Gambling addiction. That's the only one that they have allowed in to their last version of the DSM. But here's the thing, and my therapist pointed this out very well. Insurance companies will not take gambling addiction as a diagnosis, even if it's made by professionals, as a reason to pay for health care. They just don't do it yet. And as my therapist said, it doesn't matter if we think gambling addiction's real or porn addiction's real. We know it's real. You people who go through it know it's real. But if the insurance companies aren't going to acknowledge it, it doesn't really matter what we say anymore, because all of healthcare is run by the insurance companies. So, Otter, you've been there. You've been dealing with this for a while. We see you in here enough. Obviously, it's real. It doesn't matter what a psychologist says. It doesn't matter what a therapist says. I think that's why some people like coming to see me when I go, yeah, I know how you're feeling. I know what you're going through. I can predict what your partner's going through. Not just because I've seen this a million times, but because I was there. I can tell you what you're going to think next because I was there. And I think that makes a difference for a lot of people. Diego, as we all know, Dora's cousin. How can corn affect relationships? It can absolutely destroy it. It can I have seen so many destroyed, and really none helped by pornography. Probably about 6 months ago, I was reading an article that mentioned divorce lawyers, and divorce lawyers now say that pornography plays a role, or is at least mentioned, in more than half of divorce cases now. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Pornography affects relationships huge. You start dating somebody, you should know within the first few dates what their position on pornography is. Just like you'd want to know if they use drugs. Just like you'd probably want to know if they're conservative or liberal. Just like you'd want to know what their religion is. Now, maybe none of that will matter to you, but it's one of those things you probably really should know, because if you're not compatible, it usually doesn't work. It usually doesn't work. Hey, Kai, 4 days without it, and also turned 18 since I last came in here. Wait, were you in here under 18? I specifically always slide the button to keep the kids out of here. Oh, Kai, if you weren't, now that you're an adult, I can't attack you, and you can't attack me because we'll both be tried as adults. But, I'm giving you shit. Congratulations on your birthday. Congratulations. 4 days without it is also something to congratulate you. I mean, you are at 100 hours. That may not seem like a lot to people who've been doing it for a while, but the hardest 100 hours are the 100 hours you're in right now. And it sounds like you're pulling out of it, and you're going to go on to the next 100 hours, then the next. And pretty soon you'll be at a week. And then you don't even have to count days. You know how to have a good day now, Kai. You know now how to have a better day. You know how to not use porn. And you also know there are a lot of resources out there. Be prepared for the urges. Be prepared for the bad days. And if you need help, reach out for it. I was, but an issue is an issue, and you're the most consistent help. Well, thank you, Kai. I try to be here. Hey, Sarah. How you doing? Happy Thanksgiving, even though you don't live in America. Hey, thanks for the heart, Sarah. Yay. Anybody else wants to give me gifts, please feel free. I like them very much, but I'm not going to be like most people on here and begging for them. Illy says, I once went 3 weeks without it, and I felt more empty. Should I seek help? No, it's understandable. If you're using pornography to create a sense of escape, to create a sense of confidence, to create to make your anxiety go away, to make your problems go away, to get that high of the chemicals, and then you don't have that, it's going to make you feel like crap. Like I said, we don't know exactly how everybody's going to feel because it's all different with people. Thanks for the corn, Sarah. Appreciate that. Happy Thanksgiving. Not that we have it. Yeah, but it's, you have Crocodile Dundee, right? But thank you very much, my friend from down under. It makes sense, Ellie. It makes sense that you are not feeling the way you normally do because you're not responding to messages from your brain as you have in the past, and everything's adjusting. So, no, you will not feel more empty forever and ever. Your body is going through some changes right now as you adapt to not having these chemicals, dumped on your head on a daily or whatever business. Definitely fought some urges, just kind of not ignored them, but just thought about it and did some other things. Fantastic. That is awesome. Always be prepared. That is awesome, Kai. I'm very proud of you. I know how rough that is. Look at all that corn that Sarah sent me. Yay, yay, yay. Let me reintroduce myself quickly. It's probably been about half an hour. I'm running out of water, so we're not going to go too much longer. Keep hitting up the likes. Appreciate that. You're welcome, Ellie. Hit up the likes, hit up the shares, give me gifts, exalt my name, whatever. My name is Josh. I was a porn addict 24 years. I was an alcoholic 22 years. I have been clean and sober now for a little over 10 and a half years, coming up on 11. I've also been relapse free the entire time. Around 8 years ago, I entered this area as an author. I've written 4 books on pornography, addiction, and betrayal trauma. Did a lot of public speaking. I've given hundreds of interviews, TED Talk, all that stuff. But during the pandemic, I got certified as a porn addiction coach, as a betrayal trauma coach, and as a therapeutic disclosure specialist. This is what I do now. This is why I'm here tonight. I like to share this information because this information wasn't there back when I was an addict. I like to help people as a coach. This is a great way to meet potential clients. And even if you don't have a problem, even if you are, you have no reason to ever come talk to me, I just think that there needs to be more education about this stuff in the world. Everybody wants to pretend they don't watch it. Everybody wants to pretend it's not a problem. Everybody wants to pretend it's only the weirdest of the weird, the sickest of the sick who watch this stuff, despite the fact 9 out of 10 guys do, despite the fact that 3 out of 5 women do. Not saying those are addicts, but just engage in pornography at least on a monthly basis. If 90% of men and 60% of women are doing this, can't we talk about it like adults? We don't have to talk about who's in the scenes, what the scenes are. We all know what porn is. We don't, and if you want to talk about positions and movies and that stuff, there are far more sites where you can talk about that stuff than you can talk about the stuff we talk about in here. This is a safe place. I say this all the time, but I also know that this might be the first time somebody hears it. We don't let people act like assholes in here because we want people to be able to talk about this stuff. Fiad, how do I stop? Been an addict for almost 8 years now, and longest I've gone is 2 months. Well, why should you stop? Why do you want to stop? Why must you stop? That's the question you have to answer. Not why would I like to stop? Not why should I stop? Why must I stop? You need to create your motivation and build the basis, build the foundation of your recovery on that motivation. Maybe you've got a partner that either knows or doesn't know, but you think you're going to lose them if you don't take care of it. Maybe you're worried you won't get a partner later on. Maybe you're worried about your mental or physical health. Maybe you're worried about your job or your education. But you have to figure out what is it that if you don't quit, pornography will take away from you. What is it if you don't quit? Pornography will change forever and not for the better. That's what you need to start building on. Every little tool I can teach you, every little technique to not use, that comes secondary. Because what I find most of the time when people fail, they don't want to stop. They know they should. They would like to. In an ideal world, it would be an easy thing to stop. But they don't really want to stop. You know, it's like people who are a little overweight. They'll go on a diet for a month, for 2 months. They'll eat well. But usually the diet fades away. They slowly go back to their old ways. Nothing changed, except for short term, but nothing changed because their mindset didn't change. The most important thing in the long run, Fiad, that you have to do is that you have to figure out, why did you become an addict in the first place? What happened to you to make you an addict? 99.97% of the time, it's trauma. Trauma that occurred in childhood, whether you know it's there right now or not. But figure out why you must quit. Not just the fasting part of it. You know, I don't want to, you know, go 30 days without using it. Great. What does that prove if you're not changing your mindset on it? If you're not learning about your urges, if you're not learning why you became this way? That's the most important part of this. So you're at the beginning, Fiad, but you can do this, and you can start with knowing why you're starting. Kai says, I'd lose my relationship, and I see that happen all the time. You know, I deal with people who divorce or break up. Sometimes because, you know, and sometimes I've contributed to that decision making. You know, I don't take that lightly at all. But people need to recognize you can lose your relationship with this. Locked VVC, my thing is, how am I supposed to remember something that long ago? Well, the thing is, your brain is probably actively trying not to remember. There was a lot I didn't remember when I first started. And then through certain exercises, through talking with professionals, I got there pretty fast. You know, I would guarantee you, VVC, you and I could talk for an hour, and at the end of it, you would probably have a strong inclination what the trauma was, even if it's just a general idea. With me, it took me 3-4 weeks to really wrap my arms around some of the abuse that took place when I was a kid. It was several, probably 6 months later that I found the biggest emotional trauma I had. And it was actually because I was having a conversation with my mom, and she has the same trauma. I just hadn't put it together at that point. Our bodies protect us. And, yeah. Corn. Oh, corn. Hi, PJ Cav. Thanks for being here. Gonna dig deep. Yeah, Kai. And, but again, I also always urge people to talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about, because what happens if you dig deep, but you start going down a road that has nothing to do with it? Just because your mom was distant doesn't mean that's why you're here where you are today. Just because your coach treated you the worst of anybody on the team doesn't mean that's why you're here today. You've got to figure out what is the trauma that you have to deal with, because we all react to differently. Trauma is just unresolved pain. Trauma is just the pain that lingers. Trauma is the pain that informs our life. It's the fear that informs our life. I had a client who was mercilessly teased in fifth, sixth grade by the mean girl group. In high school, he tried to date mostly very passive wallflower type girls. He also, you know, has been dating them straight through because, and it, he didn't recognize it was because of those girls. That's when he didn't want a girl who would call him out because it was embarrassing. Those girls embarrassed him. That's what he was number one he was looking for in a partner, is for somebody to not make him feel bad about himself. He didn't really realize that till we pointed it out, and I pointed that out probably about 2 minutes after he told the story, because it's pretty obvious. It's just not obvious when we're in the middle of it a lot of the time. That's why I've never seen anybody successfully fully recover without the help of somebody, whether it is a 12-step group or a therapist or a coach or just a guy down at the golf course who's always been with this and will talk about it with you. I've never seen anybody do it completely alone. Kai, am I good to schedule you Friday? Yes, sir. I am fully on duty this Friday. I'm really trying to finish my next book. It's been several years since I've written one, and I've learned that if you don't stick with writing very regularly, it becomes a little rusty. I used to tell people, I was a newspaper reporter, magazine reporter. I've ghostwritten a lot of books. I've done a lot of writing in my life. I always used to tell people that writing is easy. I just transcribe what the voices in my head say. Well, you know what? Those voices aren't talking a lot lately. So writing's a little bit more challenging. But yeah, I will. I have Friday wide open to people. James Gleason Real Estate, I don't want to ignore your comment. No trauma. I guarantee you there probably is some trauma in there that you just don't recognize. PJ says, I'm here because I found it at a young age and found a dopamine hit. I couldn't get it home. Amen. Amen. Gonna run. Okay. Hope you follow me. Hope you come back in here. I'd love to talk to you more about that at some point, PJ. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. But to go back to James, is it no trauma you recognize? Is it no trauma you want to admit you have? Is it no trauma that you want to dig back and find? When people assert they have no trauma, that's always kind of interesting to me. So I'm just curious about that. But yeah, Kai, absolutely schedule me. And like I said, I probably will be on here at some point tomorrow. I've got some crap to do around the house, but I think it's going to be bad weather outside. Anyway, thank you for coming in, PJ, and I will try to be here tomorrow. Unless there's a whole lot more talking that needs to go on. Kabong Bongs. Love that name. Unless there's a lot more talking or anybody has questions or comments, I'm going to wrap it up for this evening. It's late here. Holiday tomorrow. I want to spend a little bit of time with my son who's still home from college tonight. So yeah, I'm going to log off. If you're not following me, please do. If you're not following me, please do. I appreciate it. You'll get information about when I'm here or information when I put up a new video. Also, check out my website, thatcorncoach.com. That can learn a lot more about me and learn more about what I'm doing. Thank you, Illy. Peace to you too. Want to thank those of you who were here. Want to thank those of you who are hanging out. Thank you, Smoothie Buns. I will talk to you later as well. Goodbye, Sarah. We'll talk to you later. I don't know if Golden State is still in here, but glad you were here. Illy, new friend. Kai, old friend. All right, we'll talk later. You guys all have a great